They do set up a lot of
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I get started, I would like to present a plaque. Oh, Clayton. Is yours in service?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, hold on, this is a photo op.
You want me to stand beside her and make her look shorter?
Please do.
I'll hold it right here, but.
No, you're all good.
I don't want to be in it.
Okay.
I had it right side up. Well,
You did.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chris, can you send that to IT? We'll put it on the intranet.
Absolutely.
So I need to approve, the agenda as presented.
So move to the agenda.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
And then approve minutes of the December 2023. I'm sorry, December 23rd, 2024 regular meeting.
Motion approved.
I get a first, I have a second, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Approve employee claims filed with the county auditor for $183.72.
Motion to approve.
First, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve claims filed with the county auditor for $87,542.82.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Approve the resignation of Chuck Kibble effective January 3rd, 2025. He is going to retire.
Motion to approve that retirement. Anybody had any idea how many years service he had?
I don't.
I would have to look it up.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it didn't say on his
Mm-mm.
letters.
I believe it's over 20, but I'd have to look for sure.
Wow. First, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve appointment of Wendy Spearsluggy to the Board of Supervisors Compensation Board, representative for the Board of Supervisors.
You would kind of look happy about it.
Here to serve.
I remember the first time I came rapping on your door, off the zoning board, remember that?
Yes. And I said we wouldn't always agree.
Yeah, well, that's part of the negotiations and working things out. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve when
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Approve the 2025 IRS mileage rate. Looks like it's going up.
Yeah, that was released, I don't remember, last week maybe sometime, but it's going up to 70 cents per mile for reimbursement. So it's ultimately up to the board if they want to go with the IRS rate, the track record in the past, that's what they've always done. So it's truly your decision with it going up. I'll probably reach out to all the department heads if it's approved. Just a little FYI, you may need to boost your mileage line.
It seems to me at one time that was changed in midstream of the year. Do
Yes.
you recall that?
I believe it was in 2021 when the fuel rates jumped so bad. They changed it mid-year and you guys approved it at that time.
Yeah. Changed. There's nothing saying that if there's always hopes that our fuel costs and everything is gonna go down, it's not the saying it couldn't happen again, and maybe we
Correct.
could go down midstream.
Yeah,
So,
if something happens that I get notification of any change, I will present it to you guys.
well, it's always been the thing about that mileage thing, it's just not a matter of buying the fuel, it's the depreciation on your vehicle, your tires and everything else that a lot of people say that doesn't cover your expenses, but I don't want to increase it any more than that. What's your thoughts on that, Tom?
Just go with what the IRS says.
Rather than past practice, so. Yeah, I'll make a motion to go with the IRS rate.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Place on file the following manure management plans. Eagle Ridge, Byron Township, Section 9. That's it.
Yep, just one.
Okay, motion to place that on file.
And first, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. ARPA funds, MOU.
Okay, as you all know, the new reporting guidelines requires that any funds that have not been used, even if they have been assigned to a project, you must have a contract or memorandum of understanding. So we did get a sample one from ISAC that I went in and did. I sent it to you guys last week. It's basically stating the plans for the board on what projects to use this. I kept it real general as far as capital projects, information technology projects, and any other projects that qualify. And then it also down under item number 6, I have the remaining fund balance in there. So what we need to do is have that approved, and I will send a copy to Mr. Berlin, so he has it for his records. And then also, it may be a little overkill, but I'm doing it anyway. There is a resolution in here that I put together. That it's basically we have some funds that have been obligated but not spent. So like example, the camera project that the sheriff had, a lot of that money came from the region, which we initially thought it would be ARPA funds.
Right.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say there was like 40-some thousand that wasn't used. So what this resolution states is I'm de-obligating those funds that were previously obligated. Now we're de-obligating them, and they're gonna go into the memorandum of understanding
Okay.
is what we're doing. So,
Okay.
there's a few counties that have done it that way. I guess I just rather be safe than sorry.
Well, I don't know if there's such a thing as an overkill, or just like we're playing it safe.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Chris, does this take care of the balance that we was gonna have left?
yes. So in this memorandum of understanding, this 800,601.58 is unused funds. And so basically that's our kitty, because everything that we had spoken for before has to be de-obligated and is going into this. So there's still the cameras and the squad stuff that you guys just approved. So it was obligated, I just de-obligated it and threw it into this memorandum of understanding. But we're still tracking it through all the spreadsheet and everything.
As long as our total dollars is covered, that's the biggest.
Correct. Yep, that's that 800,000. That's the fund balance.
So you need, do we need to make 2 separate things on this, 2 separate motions?
I would prefer that just to track it in the minutes, so I would have one approval and roll call on the memorandum of understanding, and then also an approval and roll call on the resolution,
Okay,
if I could.
that'd be good. Okay, I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding.
I'll second that.
The first and the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the resolution.
And you wanted a roll call on that one?
Yes, on both of them, please.
Okay,
Okay, order aye.
Curtis, aye.
Vogel, aye.
Thank you. And then the resolution de-obligating the previous funds that were obligated. That's kind of a mouthful, but that's what we're doing.
I make a motion to that effect.
Second.
First and second, roll call?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on that, Chris, and
Looks good.
communications that you had to take part in to get that done correct.
Well, leave it to do everything the last minute. That's what it is.
The rules.
They kind of springing on us like that.
Yeah, it was kind of a rule change all of a sudden. Oh, yeah, guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah, just last Wednesday, they had a webinar on it. Sometimes them are very foggy webinar.
The 18th was the webinar,
Mhm.
and I think all the information came out on the 16th.
It's like 2 days ago.
So-
Gee,
Back.
that looks rough, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if there's something on the agenda that you could cover quick in the 5 minutes we have until the public hearing. I guess that's up to you guys.
How much time do you,
Not very much. Just have a little update.
okay, let's go with, Buchanan County Tourism.
Do you want me to come up there?
Yes, please.
We can get that done in 5 minutes.
She says so.
I think so. I'll make it easy.
Good morning. So I just wanted to come today to give a little update on what Buchanan County Tourism has been doing over the last couple months. We did some smaller things like attending events like the wine and chocolate walk, events at the different pumpkin patches and apple orchards, and then all the holiday events through November and December, as well as continuing our social media posting. We also continue distributing Amish maps. We're up to almost 9,000 maps distributed since August, and we'll do a reprint this spring and distribute another 5,000 maps for the upcoming year. I also continued education and making connections across the state by attending state tourism meetings and working with my ITIP mentor, Terry Baker, from Fairfield's Tourism Bureau. And we worked on strengthening different marketing initiatives. And she has like a lot of creative ideas. She's super talented. So she has been a good building block. I also worked with a marketing class from UNI to create a social media strategy for Cedar Rock. And so we just wrapped that up with the end of the semester in December, which was really interesting. And that was a full semester project. So we learned from the students learned from us. It was a pretty cool experience. And I think we both got lots of good ideas. So that was pretty interesting. We're currently working on Go Wild. It's being revamped for this upcoming spring. We're doing it in April. We're working with the local schools, Indy Jessup and East Buchanan, to create new sculptures. So that kind of brings in more of a community aspect.
Oh, you don't like our previous sculptures?
No, we do. We're adding to them. We're using those. We're using those as the foundation just to spice it up a little bit. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we have all new locations too. We also have been working on Lead Buchanan with economic development, the chamber extension, in the city of Jessup, and that will start in January. And it's an 8-month long program. I believe Lisa was just here last month.
And how's
About
it fit in with tourism?
I think it's just, I believe it's community engagement. We have had probably the smallest part out of everyone in it, being only partially involved in the planning, but a large part of it is community engagement, and there is a whole tourism date that's just tourism and conservation. So our biggest part is just one small month, but I think it'll be a good thing to get our name into the community, meeting with more leaders from Buchanan County, and just working with them.
It has to help getting volunteers.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yes, a huge part of it is volunteerism. So I definitely think that'll be good for us.
Do you ever work with Jake Mass on getting volunteers?
Yes, yep. And he's a huge asset. We just did a program with him about how to be an effective leader to volunteers, which was it was interesting, and I think we got a lot of information from it.
Do you know where we're at with that final payment for the director?
It's been paid.
It has been paid, yes.
How did, just a couple quick things.
Yeah.
Public hearing got coming on here. How do you distribute the maps? You just put them out in businesses, how them businesses?
So this year we're only distributing to businesses that advertised on them. So we had 54 advertisers. And so about 35 of them were Amish businesses. So all of those Amish businesses have the maps, and then the rest were restaurants and shops and independents mostly, but also Fairbank and Hazelton.
And one thing that's been brought up too is maybe two of them in the Buchanan County Fair Association has not been working closely enough. Vote the fair, is there been some changes on there to do a better job of
Yes.
promoting that?
I just had a meeting with the Fair Board last week. We're just in the beginning plans of what we're going to do this summer. But there's going to be more of a space for me for tourism, the organization, to take part in the fair, and hopefully we can kind of build on each other.
Collaborate.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. And then, sorry, one more thing. We did get a grant for a new website, so that's super exciting. So in 2025, we will be completely redoing our website as well as all of our marketing, which should hopefully result in,
That's a plus.
That'll be
yes, for sure. I'm very excited for it.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
All
Thank you for letting me.
right, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Can I have a motion to open up the 9:15 Bontrager zoning public hearing?
I'd make a motion to open that.
Second.
And a first, second, all in favor?
Anybody here for the public hearings, please sign in, please, and thank you.
Amber.
You guys ready? Okay. So, this request is located in section 10 and 11 of Perry Township. The applicant is looking to rezone 4.54 and 11.72 acres from A1 agricultural to A2. This would be processed as a farm ag exemption split. However, it's larger than what the administrator can approve, which is the request and the reason for the rezoning to A2. So, upon your approval and recommendation, they will be able to split this per farm ag exemption and not a minor plat. Which page here, so looking at the CSR, there's 35%, 20, nope. Sorry, I missed a number here, I was typing that up.
35% is 74.
Okay, thank
20%
you.
39,
Yep, 35,
35 at 19, and
Yes.
5 at 88, and 5 at 87.
correct, yes, thank you. And then the P and Z recommended to approve this with no conditions.
So there's gonna be there's no construction that's gonna take place on this.
Correct, no construction, no land use
So
changes,
it'll be
everything.
staying actually ag
Yes,
producing property.
correct.
Is this something you had to reach out to the community area for notification?
Yes, yep,
Did you get anything back from anybody?
no. No, the only ones that were in attendance that night was the owner and the applicant. No neighbors called or came to the meeting. I believe that one, there were 6 of them that were notified. Yeah, 6 of them that were notified.
No conditions placed on anything.
Correct.
So I have no further questions.
John, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. It looks like a pretty concise split, so.
Yes. Anybody in the public have any questions? Ask for a motion to close the public hearing then.
I make a motion to close it.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Public hearing is closed. Ask for a motion from the board to either proceed or not proceed.
Motion to proceed with that. First.
second.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. It passes. And right on time, because at 9:20 we have a Cameron zoning public hearing.
I make a motion to enter the public hearing. Cameron.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So this one is located in section 29 of Washington Township. The applicant is looking to take the 5.35 acres and split it into 3 lots. The CSR in this area is 85% 63 CSR, 10% 5 CSR, 2% 50 CSR, and 3% 64 CSR. This one is located in the 100 and 500 year floodplain. So when the construction does start to begin, that will be on myself to make sure that they do remain out of that flood zone area. If by chance they do want to construct anything in there, they will have to obtain a base flood elevation certificate with the DNR. And then the PNZ did recommend this approval, with the conditions that there will only be 1 single family dwelling on each lot. Each lot will have its own septic system, a shared well with an agreement, and a driveway permit and approval with Buchanan County Secondary Roads prior to the minor plat approval with the Board of Supervisors. And the PNZ did recommend the approval for this request.
Their driveways are gonna come in off Waterville Boulevard and not do that access.
That is the understanding, yes. So since there's 2 already established, it would just be that one additional one right next to Wheelan's development there.
Presently, the land use is being used for what?
There's 2 houses on there currently. There's a smaller one. I'm sure you guys probably drove past it a million times. The one in the middle is a small yellow house that is classified as a rental house, and that is going to be demolished or removed off site. And then the 2 newer houses will be established on the last 2 lots to the west.
So currently, is it that ground being pastured, hay?
No,
or
just grass.
just grass?
Mhm.
Has it had any history of agricultural production?
Yes, back in 1800s, I want to say 18 and 1900s. Yes, the previous images, it does show that it was used for farming.
Was there any discussion by the P and Z about 85% being 63 CSR, which is about 8 above or 55?
No comments were mentioned about the CSR. They didn't have any concerns, just felt that it kind of fits in that residential area with the rest of the homes to the north and east of it currently.
I would assume since it hasn't been utilized for ag use for many years. Much of a discussion about that.
Right.
Just don't want something like this to come back and bite the board or anything, anytime something like this. So you gotta be good reasoning to approve something above that 55.
Sure, understandable.
You repeat the condition for me because I'll have to put that in the resolution. Single family dwelling, I got that.
Match that, on septic system. Shared well.
Any other questions?
Wait,
I was wondering, being the public hearing time, I was wondering if Wendy, if the folks that just stepped in, could you identify yourselves? Are you part of this
Sorry,
or
permit and approval. with the
Yeah, I'm gonna cross.
you live across the road? Okay. It's public hearing, so now it's time for anybody to speak up if they got any concerns or questions about any of this.
I guess we do have a concern. Were they able to break it into 3 lots?
By rezoning to R3 residential, that allows them to have, a smaller lot size.
You can do it across the road and down the road, Christensen can do it, just
If you
go on down Otterville and they can just keep putting houses up.
potentially, yes, if it's not taking like the 88 or 87 CSR out of production and it's being rezoned to R3 residential, of which the Planning and Zoning Commission can have a meeting on for recommendation, and then the Board of Supervisors then have the final approval on that.
Well, is the person that's gonna do this gonna live there? Is he doing it just for the money?
That I can't answer. We don't, I guess, necessarily oversee that. It's just a zoning request.
Well, I don't see him living in all 3 homes.
That's the other concern when he says he's moving. We can build our house out there and cross them.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna take the old house and, demolish that and put a new home in. And it sounds like that's what they're gonna do with the other lot, was also put a new home in.
It's only,
3 mobile homes. That's what I'm anticipating.
if he could potentially put in 2 additional ones, which would align with the first one that's already there. But it's still only going to be 1, say, mobile home per lot. So there wouldn't be allowed to be 2 or 3 out there, just 1.
We're concerned too. We live right next door.
We look just. What are your concerns, folks?
Same.
Same concerns, yeah, so you don't wanna live next to a mobile home.
Did you 2 parties attend the P and Z meeting when this was?
We didn't know about it.
You weren't notified as neighbors?
They
We
were,
were notified of this. That was his.
But not the P and Z meeting?
I have 9 neighbors were notified of the P and Z meeting.
I got for this.
Wendy, do you have anything to state?
You're looking at that, I believe, pulled up the, I don't know if ever looking at the CSR map. It was the flood, where it was in the floodplain, we would be able to build, and I believe that's where the best ground was. So that was kind of a no point, we looked at it. The property was gonna basically remain in the current form of coverage, so that didn't really play into where there was gonna be no change, this is gonna be blotted out. So that's why we, increased CSR hasn't been utilized for several years, several decades. So, that did come into play with us at this, on this particular one. But, the floodplain did bother us. We did question that quite heavily. There's not a lot of room there. There's gonna be specific places that only like one specific place that you could put a home on that little lot. There was discussion about that.
So both parties are claiming that you never received anything, notice of P and Z. That's very important to me to have these, everybody, if they got anything concerns about any of these zoning requests, that you attend those meetings, because they're basically the informational gathering committee for the Board of Supervisors, the advisory board for the Board of Supervisors for our final approval and stuff. So when you send these out, Amber, How do you, they're not sent out certified or nothing like that, just standard mail, right?
Correct, they're mailed out with the planning and zoning packets and the packets that the owner or applicant receive as well.
And we received, in the packets, we received a list.
I got this one last Friday.
The one for this,
For two.
but
That's
not
the
for
one
the.
that's the first I
When
heard
was
of
it?
it.
Was December 4th on Wednesday, 7.
You have them at the EOC building.
Correct.
Am I reading this correctly? So the R3 small scale residential district, and you can do a single family dwelling, a two family, and it has like a maximum building height on that. When you go down to mobile home park, individual unit requirements, it says minimum lot area would have to be 2 acres,
Correct, yes.
so they could not put a mobile home on this.
Correct, not with it being rezoned R3 and the condition, what we classify as the stipulation, that only one single-family dwelling can be established on each lot.
So a mobile home would not be allowed.
It's because the lots are smaller than 2 acres.
The current house is a mobile home.
Yeah.
It's a double wide trailer. So would that lot, if they kept that, have to be 2 acres then?
Probably be grandfather type.
It is grandfathered in, yep,
That would probably pre the new regulations.
correct, yes.
But if anything would happen, if that was something happened to that reconstruction, then they couldn't move
Then
another
that-
one in, right?
Right, yeah, that changes things.
Fire or something, if they move it out, they couldn't move a new one in. I guess I don't know, I just bothers me that, these two parties have concerns about this. I don't know what happened, why they didn't receive the notification as claimed. And I think the P and Z board is important to, from these folks. Does that make any difference in your opinions today, knowing that a mobile home cannot be placed there?
It uses things, but it's still.
I feel like with the floodplain, the lots would be super small. Where that floodplain is,
We discussed it.
I just don't see how their lots would be that big. Where the current structures are right now, there would not be
Enough room.
just.
Well, the biggest thing on that, there would be no construction allowed in that floodplain area.
Correct. Well, let me rephrase that. There could be, yes. But it would need a base flood elevation, which is determined by the DNR. So if the DNR states like it's okay, they gave me the base flood elevation, then I just have to request it has to be 1 foot above that, of which they could construct.
So we can stick a stilts. Put the
Yes.
build a home.
Put a hole on a lot of fill, or
Yes,
the foundation level would have to be above that
yes,
le-
yeah,
elevation.
whatever the DNR determines, yes.
So would you folks feel it'd be pretty adamant, you'd like to speak to the zoning board about this?
Make a difference, yeah, I mean,
We can't guarantee it would make a difference, but, you'd have the opportunity to present to them. Yeah.
Yes, we'd be willing to listen.
Okay,
We always have been.
yeah. I mean, it's not a life and death thing that the approval has to be taken place right now, is it, Amber? I mean,
I know the applicant was wanting to get things moving as soon as he could. But it's ultimately up to you guys.
We already have all their addresses and names, so it shouldn't be that hard to send notices out.
Correct.
would you make sure that your correct address given to
Well, they've
Amber.
got letters in their hand.
Oh, you got the letter, so.
On
apparently-
Wednesday.
Well, I just, I'm not willing to take action on this until these folks have an opportunity to present to P and Z board. That's my stance.
I would say there's been a lot of development on Otterville Boulevard over the years. Yeah, increased residential building and
This is beneficial to the county revenues, so.
that is. And,
And it's on paved road.
yes, and
Right,
for the most part, most of these homes have been nice homes that they've been putting up. It's not like it's a bunch of junk cabins or anything out there, so that's a positive, I guess, but, I think,
I don't think he's building it. Through the grapevine, we heard he's moving homes in. That's why we thought they were gonna be mobile homes or double wides.
I would
That's just the
say,
rumors we heard. I don't know if it's true.
sure, yep. And I can't, as I say, I haven't heard anything with him moving anything in. He just did clearly state that the one house in the middle, the yellow one, would be removed. And he's hoping to make it look better in that area than what it is now, but
Is he clear to the fact that mobile homes, does he understand that? Issue?
I would say no, since it's just been brought up today, so.
See, that might change his ideas about moving forward if he knows that that can't happen.
I mean, he can't establish a mobile home park. But it gets, a single family dwelling could be a mobile home.
well,
I mean, we've allowed those throughout any residential rezoning. So
But you'll need the 2 acres to put a mobile home on.
to put a mobile home park,
Is that park or is it home?
just a park, may I show you this here? I'll get it. This is just our 3 residential here. So we're gonna do a mobile home park for the 2 acres is kind of what
What's considered a mobile home park? More than one mobile home on
Yes.
a lot,
Yes,
but you're splitting it into 3. So it could be 3 homes.
but they will each be,
On their own.
like, this will be its own lot. This will be its own lot. So right now, we are splitting that up, but a survey would need to be done and to make those each individual lots. If that
How about
helps.
the driveway, put the third,
Yeah, where's that proposed going in?
it's gotta be almost right on the corner.
Well, that's, yeah.
That will be,
Good spot.
That's a dangerous corner.
We've already had some.
We've had multiple cars in our ditch.
Yeah, this is something that needs to be reviewed by secondary roads and.
Yep,
I believe in the conditions,
Huh?
yes,
in
thank
the
you.
zoning stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the conditions is a driveway permit must be approved by secondary roads prior to
Yes,
minor plat approval.
correct.
And there's some criteria that's gotta be met on that. I mean, that's something that's considered as the vine area, a curve where existing driveways are. There's different criteria that they use for approving those permits.
We don't have the expertise. to Do that.
Engineering.
Yes, that'll be brought to the engineer, making sure it's done correctly.
Amber, just to clarify this is, the owner is different than who wants to develop it. Chris Cameron
So-
developed it.
He is, yes. And there was an agreement, but because the owner was Jeff Pierce. They did have an agreement that Chris would do the rezoning. But if the sale didn't go through, then it would just be mute. But however, the property closed and then we had the P and Z meeting. So I think you should have an updated application where it just has Chris on there.
Well, he bought it from Pierce.
He did, yes, yep.
The next P and Z meeting is,
It wouldn't be placed on until February. Yep. For publication deadlines and
Well,
notifications, so February.
maybe nothing's really gonna happen in the winter anyway.
Yeah, right, usually, you know, something like that. I just, I just like people to be present and voice their concerns. I don't know what happened here, why you folks weren't notified, I don't know. I know mail service sometimes can get crazy, even out in my neighborhood.
Yeah, but both of us?
Yeah, I know. I know.
I would make a motion that we postpone this.
Well, we gotta close the public hearing for
Oh,
this.
okay.
Um,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
No other concerns, anybody from the public hearing at this time before we continue closing? Okay, I'll second the motion for closing.
first and second, all in favor?
All right. Then I would make a motion that we return this to the Planning and Zoning Commission to do further investigation before approving.
I'll second
And
that.
the first and second, all in favor?
All right.
And zoning gets it back.
You have a date now in February, that would be, so these folks would know
Let me take a look.
before they depart.
Oh, yeah, it's right here, isn't it? No, oh, that's 2024.
We haven't got any new calendars yet.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna be lost.
Mm-hmm.
So they, what, the first Wednesday of
So
February?
it should be, yep, February 5th.
February 5th, folks.
Is this in writing, or are we gonna get notified, or just?
Yes.
I think she'll send out more notifications, right?
Yep,
How do, well, yeah, I guess we don't have to check our addresses, what you guys have.
Well, cause you apparently you got it right, because you got the one for today.
right.
Pencil that in, February 5th. Thanks for showing up.
Appreciate your input.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks for hearing us out.
Or down to your IT director, Jason.
Thanks, Amber.
Yes, thank you.
Good thing you got my reader.
Oh, you did me again.
Trying to save paper. All right, so this is regarding the potential consolidated printer contracts that's come up before. There's some questions before, I just got them listed out here. First one being the assessor's office. Where were they on the contract? That was a misprint by the salesperson. He labeled them as treasurer's office instead of the assessor's office. So the handout's been updated with the correct names on there. Yeah. The pricing stays the same, just the names weren't correct. Question, anyone using grants other than public health and community services? No, I heard back and there's no one using grants. The printer contracts currently, specifically the board of supervisors, printer was not under any contract. So we were paying for the maintenance and the toner kind of out of pocket. So this would put it under a contract. If a unit completely dies, what happens? Well, Nathan with Access Systems had stated that the units that would be replaced that are in bold on this contract are the ones that do not have a guaranteed parts for the next 5 years. So all of the remaining units and the new units have guaranteed parts for the next 5 years. He said most manufacturers will make them for 7 years. So this would still fall under within that window for the units that we already have.
So one of these that can't guarantee parts dies, what happens to that unit? How does it get replaced?
He's guaranteeing parts on all of these for the next 5 years.
On all
Yes, that's why some of them had to be replaced. That'd be swapped out because those did not have parts that they could guarantee for 5 years.
of them. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
get it now. So the ones that were concerned are being swapped.
Correct. And a question did come up, what happens if the unit completely dies? If it's a leased machine, they would find something comparable to replace it with. If it's our machine and it's completely dead, like it blows up completely, we would have to buy a new one ourselves. Since it's not under any lease to own contract, this is our own hardware. But if it's a
How many
part,
fall underneath that?
what's that?
How many fall underneath that category?
Let's see. Approximately 50%, give or take.
Those are the ones that are in bold, you said?
Those are the ones that are not in bold.
Not in.
Those are not the ones being replaced. It's probably even less than that, maybe closer to 20%.
That does put us at some kind of,
Only if,
financial liability over 5 years and we're not knowing when one of these are gonna die.
if it completely dies,
Mhm.
that's the equivalent of like your car not being able to be fixed anymore.
Mhm.
The parts will still be available and it's still under the contract to get them fixed. So if, let's say, the fuser goes out, they'll fix it. But if someone in the jail picks a printer up and lobs it across the room and it gets completely destroyed, they're not going to fix it. That's a total loss. Then we would buy a new one.
What if just one component, say that the main circuit, brain box or something?
And they would replace that under the contract.
Then
yeah.
they replace the machine.
Correct. Or they would replace the part.
Well, what if it's
Yep.
not available apart?
They're saying that all parts are available for the next 5 years.
Oh,
Yes. Yep. That's why some of them had to get swapped out because they couldn't guarantee it.
is that well spelled out in the contract?
That's in the contract, yes. And we're under a number of the contracts currently through Access Systems for that very thing. This just gets it all consolidated and brings in some of the machines that weren't under contract into that contract.
Of the existing contract and stuff like that, is that gonna be any issue getting out of that contract to restart this?
The existing contracts through Access Systems will just get pushed for 5 years. So if you have a copier that's under a lease to own that you're 2 years in, it's going to push that contract another 5 years. So it just kind of refreshes all the machines. Then another thing that came up that Nathan actually suggested is normally it's quarterly where they do the calculations of overages. He suggested we go to semi-annually instead if we pursue this, so that we have a higher chance of absorbing any potential spikes in departments. So it just kind of evens it out more.
So they count that as the aggregate usage, or are they still departmentally?
All the departments would fall under a shared contract for print count. If we exceed that print count, let's say for the first 2 months, attorney's office goes through the roof way above our contract, we would normally owe for the overage charges since the contract only covers so much. But if and he suggested doing it semi-annually calculated, the next 3 or 4 months can absorb that overages and then it gets calculated at that 6-month mark. So we wouldn't have that big spike in that quarter
So
to pay for.
Recorder's office, treasurer's office doesn't use that many.
Correct.
They all lump together and hopefully that total
Buffers it down. Yep.
Let's say the worst case scenario that we go over the total, even after it's
Yes.
all averaged out.
Yep.
And say if it goes over and it's proven that, say, the attorney's office caused that.
Mhm.
And it costs extra dollars, does that come out of your budget or his budget?
I anticipate it coming out of my budget. Yep. Since the cost for this contract would come out of my budget, the IT department would absorb the overages charges.
Cushion in your budget in case that happens.
There's a slight cushion in there. Yes.
I think just budget wise, this would be a good wake up call for every department to kind of scrutinize how many copies they make of things and whether certain copies are actually needed. I understand the attorney's office is bound by legal requirements that they have to make tons of copies, but, I know we can view a lot of things electronically. We don't have to have a hard copy of.
And I'll be gone, so you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah,
I'm a paper guy.
And I pulled the numbers for the Board of Supervisors machine, and you guys are printing approximately 538 color prints a month and 319 black and white a month.
Because we're not clicking,
What's that?
my guess is we're probably not clicking
Black and white only. Yeah.
even though it is black and white, what we're printing.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's not horrible at all in the grand scheme of things. When you look at some departments that are printing 6,000 pages a month, it just depends.
Well, I guess one thing I brought up last time, and I think Chris is aware of it, we've always had with our auditing firm concerned about what it actually, the expense, what's the cost to operate each individual department. And it's hard to divide everything out because you can't, like the heating of each department or the water usage or the electric and stuff. It's really hard to divide some of that stuff out.
This one might be a little easier to do that.
So you can trace back, if that was necessary, we could trace back to look at what percentage of the total contract by the number of copies they used.
Exactly. Yes. So if you're using 8,000 prints on the board printer for whatever reason, the billing statement would show on that machine the print count for that term was 8,000, and then you would know that we used up a ton of the contract, and you could calculate it out that in the grand scheme of things, you used up 50% of the cost if you had to know exactly for that duration.
Technically, we could just have, if we really want to get picky about some of this stuff, and IT goes and does something for somebody else, they just bill for their time. Then we know exactly what the cost for every department is.
Yeah, if each time you go to a different department, you have to bill your hours.
You get into a mess because of how much of my time or long time is spent maintaining the servers that run everything, and how much does each department utilize each server. Yeah, I mean, we could if you really wanted to, but that'd take up a ton of time.
So as far as like the kind of contract initiation date, that semi-annual accounts, is there a certain time of year that we use more prints? To pick on the auditor's office, I'm sure they do more in the fall type of conversation, so maybe the count would be right before their big mailing.
The auditor's office, in particular, would be mostly during election. That'd be the highest count. Attorney's office is all over the place.
Sure.
Supervisors is more during budget time because we print your budget reports from your printer.
Yeah, the packets.
So as far as like when we would sign into a contract, maybe consider that.
Yeah, I can look into that. Yeah. And I asked Nathan, when did he need to know an answer? He just said the sooner you do it, the more money in the end you're gonna save. But to your point, I can check and see the best time.
What is the anticipated cost savings?
Initial calculation is 5,000 to 10,000 a year, depending.
I thank Jason for doing the legwork on this because this could potentially save the county.
Oh, yeah.
$5,000 to $10,000 is huge.
What I've always said is, sometimes there's been remarks made that, that's only that much money, but if you keep doing different things like this at the end of the year, a lot of projects like this can add up.
Give them a lot of money. Yeah. Raise up funds for other projects. And I think what your suggestion is makes a lot of sense. I really do.
Is that a motion? We kind of talked this thing to death.
Yeah.
I think this is the third time it's been on the agenda.
All right.
Yeah,
I will make a motion that we have Jason pursue the contract negotiation with Access Systems.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
On the agenda, you are going to be discussing the Assembly Room North area calendar. Do you need me here for that? All
Yeah, you can stay up here because I might go.
right, I'll join the audience again.
All right. County conservation.
By 24 annual report for you guys to run.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Different point than the last couple of years. Anybody else on copy?
Sir?
All right, so chapter 350 of Iowa Code requires that we present our financial report to you every year. We've always provided quite a bit more information in our annual report than what is required by the law. So I'll just kind of walk you through that here really quick. So the first part of the report just kind of goes over our breaks out who's on our conservation board and our staff. Before we had just kind of had this shown out in a list, but I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to meet the staff or what they look like. This kind of shows you here. On the volunteer and seasonal staff portion, midway through your packet, we do utilize our volunteers to help staff our nature center and do a variety of things around the park. One thing that I've always found is pretty astounding is since 1994, when we opened the nature center, we've utilized volunteers to cover 15,915 hours. And if you multiply that by the minimum wage, that's saved the county roughly $115,000 since 1994. So
That's awesome.
Yes. I'll try to be better at volunteering next year.
it does help.
Don Vogel got one point.
Yep. it all helps. So
She's probably running copies out there.
yeah.
You never know.
And then within our department, we have 3 different programs. I'm gonna talk through here really quick. So we have Parks and Recreation, our Environmental Education Program, and our Conservation and Natural Resources Program. So within our Parks and Recreation Program, we do have 2 full-time park rangers. One that's staffed out at Fontana and one that's located at Jakeway. This year, we opened the Lakeside Campground in April, and that did give us a pretty big bump to our overall revenue. So last year, I believe our overall camping revenue was around $42,000. And after having the Lakeside Campground open for a year now, that bumped us up to about $59,000. So I thought that was pretty impressive for the first year. So
The cabins are included in that dollar amount.
no, the cabins are not. Yeah, so our camping revenues go back into the general fund, but the way it was set up when I took over was that our cabin revenues go into our reserve account, and I do have that number broken out later in the financial part of the report. So I believe it was around maybe $18,000 or $19,000 this year. So
I would anticipate your camping revenue is gonna skyrocket here over the next couple of years.
yeah, I think as people like continue to hear about it and tell their friends about it, I do anticipate that that'll continue to go up. Yep. That tends to be our biggest criticism, is that the trees aren't big enough and they don't have enough shade yet. So
You can only encourage them to grow so much.
yeah. So, but yeah, otherwise everything kind of worked pretty flawlessly with the campground this year. We didn't really have any major hiccups. The staff's still kind of getting used to the flow of having additional online reservations because all the sites are available for online reservation and first come, first served camping 2 days out if there hasn't been a reservation posted. So that's been a little
I
bit
know
of a,
the restrooms are really nice out there.
yeah,
How often do they have to service those?
not very often. It's been pretty easy on maintenance. I would say, you know, on an
Are people
average.
pretty respectful of them?
Yeah, with those they are. Yeah, we've definitely not had near the problems with the new campground as we do in some of our other restrooms and whatnot. So, but yeah, on an average weekend, I mean, I do chores just like the rest of the guys do, and we maybe change out toilet paper
Here's a
once a.
director and he does chores.
Well, I do think that that's important because it, you know, sometimes it's easy to not see the problems that the staff are running into if I'm not partaking in it as well. So
I appreciate that.
but yeah, no, they, overall, like, I wouldn't say that it's added a ton of maintenance hours for us. I mean, the biggest problems we've had have just been getting people used to the system where we do both online and, first come, first serve reservations. And then we do have our hydrants are a little funky, so we do have to explain those sometimes, but it's pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. So.
Amazed at the design of those restrooms when they're just drop in place type things.
Yeah, it's the way to do
But
it.
they're
It's
very, I don't want to say low maintenance type of
mhm.
facility because there's not a lot to go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the whole structure is concrete. All the fixtures inside are either stainless steel or they're all durable.
Yeah.
So it should last us a long time without requiring a whole lot from us anyway. So
Do they qualify for storm shelter?
I don't believe so. No, they said that, I believe the salesman told me that they could potentially qualify, but it must cost a fair amount to get that certification. And they haven't really needed to get it to sell the units, so they haven't pursued it. But I know if I was out there in a storm, that's probably where I'd go.
Well, I know
If that thing blows away,
Where would I
worst
feel
problem.
safer?
So
Feel safer in my camper, or would I feel safer in the shower?
yeah, the shower house would definitely be the place to go. I mean, we still direct people to the basement of the nature center because that's kind of our designated spot to send people. But yeah, so. Any other questions on that part of the report?
Sounds good.
All right. Next page kind of goes over the lakeside campground in more depth. So I won't cover any more of that. I did list out all the different grants that we were able to get for the campground project, the solar array, and the learning and discovery trail project, which the trail project will be in next year's report, kind of go over in more depth then. The solar array has been working really well too. We did have one issue with one of the inverters that shortly after it was installed, but we've got that remedied now and it has been working pretty well and churning out some savings anyway. So on the environmental education side, the numbers on this always blow me away. Last year, our two naturalists put on 940 total programs to 17,772 total participants. So we are really making a big impact in the community, and it just is always mind-boggling to me. Like, that's a crazy number of programs for two people to put on.
Mm-hmm. There's a crazy amount of kids out there in the springtime.
Yeah, it is very busy. And then the other crazy figure from this year is that we saw over 14,000 visitors through the Interpretive Nature Center. Bulk of that comes through between April and October, but it's really nice to see like the amount of use we get out there and the amount of people that come to the park specifically for that. So questions on environmental ed? And from the conservation natural resources end, We do have 3 full-time conservation technicians. This year we hired a new conservation technician, Brady Wilkinson. That was planned in our long-term plan when Dan retired and I took over. My position more or less got converted into the conservation technician position to help us out with maintenance in the parks and land management in our outlying areas. So,
They help do the mowing and.
yeah, yep, our staff kind of surprised me because in some other counties, I think they kind of utilize seasonals more to do their mowing and whatnot, but our staff does do the majority of that, so.
That's one of the biggest complaints I've heard, especially when it's about state parks, when the state cut back on doing maintenance, mowing and
Mhm.
keeping care of their parks and stuff. I heard the largest outcry from the public about that they cut back and they weren't keeping up with keeping the parks neat and tidy and mowed and
Yeah.
cleaned up and stuff. There was a lot of complaints about that in the state parks.
And I think that's something that we really do well, like the amount of trails that we have throughout our outlying areas, how Fontana's kept up and Jakeway, it's just coming from working in other counties. I do think that that's something we do really well in keeping things looking nice for people to use, so. Just walk through a few highlights here for you really quick. This year, we have a private lands planting program where our conservation technicians goes out and helps. We get paid to do it, but they go out and help plant CRP and other types of plantings. So we did 210 acres this year. That has been trending lower just because I assume because the CRP rental rates have been lower, there's not as much going in as there was maybe like 10 years ago or so, but there will be a lot of CRP that's coming out in 2026 and 2027. So we may get busier with that here in the next couple of years. We planted 1,300 trees last year. Had a little better, for the public lands part of it, we had a little better burn season than we had the previous year. We did 23 prescribed fires and burned 134.5 acres. And the guys continued to monitor our bird box program. So we monitor roughly 50 duck boxes throughout the season as well.
Tree planters, that's still the same original.
Mhm.
I've heard that there's better tree planters out there in the
Yeah.
market and stuff. I've heard a lot of people comment that the one that we have is antique-ish. and
Yeah,
old
it's
school.
pretty
There's better
old school.
tree planters out there. I was just wondering something like that, if through the forestry or anything, if there'd be a possibility to get grant dollars to buy a new tree planter.
There could potentially be, yeah. Yeah, it's something we could definitely look into. We don't do a ton of tree planting, but it's something that I think there is demand for, and there's new conservation programs that have come out in the last while that are encouraging more tree planting, so there might be an opportunity there if we had something a little better. For the coming.
Something where you actually have the tree spades that you do.
No, it's like I haven't actually seen ours run, but I believe it hooks up to the 3-point on the tractor, and then there's a seat on it, and then they drop like bare root trees into it, and it kind of plants them right in a line.
Oh, okay.
In
So,
the back, it follows up with a couple packing compaction
yeah,
wheels that bring the dirt back in, but there's new improved tree planters, and I was told that some of my failure was because of the tree planter at my place.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there would be times where a tree spade would be nice too, like you're talking, because then we do have trees in places where, we have to remove them for whatever reason. It'd be nice to be able to move them and chop them down, but they are pretty pricey too, so.
Well, even relocating them from one area to another or something
Mhm.
based on what's going on.
Yeah,
I don't know, Green Tree still had theirs or not.
I don't know if they actually had a tree planter.
I thought they had.
They had a tree mover, spade.
And we can get back on track here.
yep.
Okay.
So yeah, next year I put some of the upcoming projects on here that we'll have as well. We've been working pretty heavily with the Fish and Wildlife Service to reconstruct some wetlands in our outlying areas. So it doesn't include it in this report because this cuts off at the beginning of, or the end of FY '24, but we did work with them on reconstructing a wetland out at Crumbacher Wildlife Area, and that ended up being about a 4-acre wetland, and it's already filled up, so that's been kind of nice to see and have people utilize. We got a grant through the Prairie Rapids Audubon Society to install some new wood duck boxes out there, so that was fully covered through that grant. And then for the coming year, FY '26, we're working on plans for a small wetland at Cooney Pond, another small wetland at Crumbacher, and a prairie reconstruction project at Cooney Pond as well that'll be fully covered through them. So it's been nice to build that relationship and have it cover the majority of the expenses with those and get some good work done. So the next page covers the status of our conservation board funds. Give you a minute to kind of look through that and answer any questions that you have. Just shows kind of where we ended up with each line item at the end of FY '24, where our REAP and conservation reserve landed, and
Stay in your fund balance, right?
for the conservation reserve, for the general fund.
Yeah.
No, I believe.
It's not specific to conservation, but it's specific to the general fund.
Yeah, so we did have some funds that we didn't utilize in FY '24. I think there was about $140-some thousand that we had budgeted for the trail project. Unfortunately, because that got delayed a little bit and started in FY '25, we weren't able to utilize that money in FY '24. So, but we did budget for that in FY '25, and then that gets reimbursed by a TAP grant that I think we've got 90% of back already. So, yeah. So when the project wraps up, we're just waiting on a few minor fixes to the trail project. And once the grass grows like all out in the ditches, I think we have to have 60% cover or something like that. That'll finish it up, and we'll get the remainder of the money in. So
We had a good partner. I received that, right?
yep. Yeah, it actually grew. So when she hydro seeded it, it was so bone dry that it did end up germinating. So
Good.
Yeah.
You ever do any restocking programs with the DNR or anything for any of the ponds and stuff? Because I fished Kootenai 3 times, and I never caught a fish over there.
oh, really? Yeah, no, they do come in. Have you had one?
Go to the intranet page, go to the IT section where I have my shotgun over the fish. That was Cooney Pond.
No, there are something
Catch
there.
a lot of bass out there.
Yeah, no, they do come in stock Fontana. I'm not entirely sure. I'm assuming they stock Cooney Pond, and then they do stock channel catfish in some of our quarry ponds and so. But yeah, this FY '24 and FY '25, we did bring in a significant amount of grant dollars and donation dollars for our master plan projects. So in FY '24, that totaled $435,000. I don't have the final total for you for FY '25, but I know you guys had dedicated that almost $800,000 of ARPA money towards the campground project, and we were able to leverage that into almost $2 million worth of total project costs through grants and whatnot. So we are really appreciative of that, and it definitely went a long way and made the park a lot better. So
I think the investment in that is gonna have long-term repercussions as far as an income stream.
yeah,
Help you guys.
It would actually have more, be better if we could figure out a way to get the internet from out to there, so that the campers could then have internet.
Yeah,
They're
that,
supposed to be all joined in outdoor, they're not supposed to be sitting.
That's gonna say.
it is interesting that our needs assessment survey, Wi-Fi was not very high on the list. But what I've seen is we also have a couple other camping websites that we maintain just pages on because people use it from traveling all over, like through from different places in the country. And I've seen a lot more comments on there about the fact that we don't have Wi-Fi and that being a downside to it, I guess.
Cable.
And yeah, it's never ending, like, and everybody wants something different, but I just thought that that was interesting. That it seems like more of our local people don't really want it as much, but then, you know, out of state people that are traveling through kind
Those
of
are the
our,
people that you want, because it's always better if somebody from out of state spends their money in our county.
yeah. And that was interesting this year with the campground that we had, there was multiple people from out of state that stayed there for a week or two at a time, so. But
We actually had one that stayed, one of the cabins. They had a couple stay there because they were doing the Route 20,
Oh,
or Highway 20 route. There was a reason. Well, that's kind of cool.
yeah. Yeah, that's the report in a nutshell. I don't know if you guys have any other questions on it. I can answer them or. I did put together too, we don't have to talk over it, but I did put together just a handout on all of our master plan projects as well. This year it covered the, primarily covered the campground, but this covers the bison and prairie learning area that was done before I came on board, the lakeside campground, and then, kind of summarized the trail project as well, so.
Have you changing any of your herd amount in the bison being you got a new area?
No, it's probably gonna stay about the same just because they really put a lot of pressure on that pasture. We've been rotating them into the prairie area more frequently to try to get it to grow a little better. Because when we planted that, it's real sandy there, and then we hit that drought on top of it, and the grass is still just kind of a nub. And so we're hoping that maybe we can move them in there more and get that to grow a little
I
bit.
have heard a lot of great comments about, we had the calf out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people went out to check out the calf.
Yeah,
I think that was pretty awesome.
That we probably got the most engagement on Facebook from that calf being born. I posted a video on there and I think we had 45,000 plays of the video or something like that. Great. So that's pretty astounding.
There's some good data analytics on the backside of your, just from when I was out there poking around from the backside of where they make the reservations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, on my county park, you're talking. Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
I said dimmed it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'll have to dig into that a little more.
I know you've got one that's not two possible openings on your conservation board. Have you?
Yeah, one.
Luck there?
Yeah, and have you got Wendy's?
5 minutes ago.
Wendy's application. Okay. She was Facebook messaging me this weekend and she had a couple questions on the application. So yeah, so we have one, and then one of my other board members may potentially have to step off next year.
Relocating.
Yeah, so I hope not, but we'll just have to kind of see what happens from there. But I do have a couple other.
A good board, and it'd be great to keep that intact.
Yeah, they've been great to work with, and yeah, so.
And any other questions, Brian?
I have none.
I should probably publicly thank Ronnie Wolf for serving for 10 years on that.
Yeah, he really did a great job.
Good partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I helped out a lot with fundraising events and everything else.
Yeah.
OP, I don't see no reason why I probably wouldn't continue helping out with that.
Yeah, he already said if we need help with anything, he'd be more than happy to still contribute where he can, so.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Good roadside manager.
Yeah, it's more for the weed commissioner part. So it's the weed commissioner's report for 2024.
Thank you.
And then,
It's just good.
Hey, Dawn,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stamp this one and then have you sign it.
do you want to do this today too, or just?
Sure, is it, that's a,
That's the one just appointing the weed commissioner?
Yep.
Okay. Yep, so pretty much what it is, each year, they would like me to come in and talk a little bit about being the weed commissioner. It goes through some of the weeds that we have in the county, which, we have a lot of the weeds, it's just the ones that are a concern is, pretty obvious, the Canada thistles, garlic mustard, all those. It just talks about how many times that I've had to write a notice or verbally. 3 times I went out verbally for a weed commissioner report, or, that someone would, I needed to talk to them about exterminating some noxious weeds. And then, it just goes through that, I spend 5% of my time. This year, I would consider it on weed commissioner duties. Some years I spend more, but this year I did not have a lot of reports of noxious weeds that I would go out and talk to the landowner. But when you're looking through this, is there any questions? It just kind of, on the back sheet, we'll go throughout, or, is how many chemicals I used this year.
Well, the basic thing, you're doing okay, staying ahead of the game on what we got going on out there, noxious weeds and stuff.
Yeah. Yep,
Nothing's getting out of hand or nothing.
This year, I think the wet spring, I saw a lot more Canada thistles because they like it wet, and then with it turning dry, I think next year I'm gonna have a lot of Canada thistles to fight. But pretty much everything's staying the same. The musk thistle, I don't see it in the roadside as much as, I do see it in some areas. But, we're just staying on top of it, which is good. You're always gonna have brush. You're always gonna have noxious weeds.
And you said that you're gonna work more on spot spraying and
Yeah.
broadcasting.
Yep. That would be, I need to work with my summer help more.
Are you seeing a prevalence of that mustard coming, or is that?
That's more, that wouldn't be as much in the ditch as, like in the timber area. But yeah, I know the conservation and stuff fight it. But the one thing, the Oriental bittersweet, I'm seeing more and more. I'm surprised with that. And it's not a noxious weed, but I wish people wouldn't plant pampas grass in the roadside. It just takes over and you cannot kill it. I've tried before. So what's that? You can kill pampas grass.
I've tried planting it so many times in my ditch and I keep it.
Maybe that's my wish. Yeah.
Just let me.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. No.
My wife loves it.
I do too, but.
But they.
It's not practical to down, but.
Yeah, it won't.
And the snow trap too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Because nothing else would grow in it, so it's just pampas grass and you don't have, it's not good for wildlife because, really you can't, it just grows pampas grass. There's no variety in it. And it spreads quick and you can't kill it. So, but a lot of people plant it.
Good for hiding golf.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always right next to the tree.
Yep.
That. You lop that off and you dab that tordon on there, you're taking a chance of killing, say.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do tordon because that would be a chance of killing the tree. When I went to Backbone, because I attended a meeting about the Oriental bittersweet, they recommended like Roundup, more like a Pathfinder 2, not a tordon. To put on the stump. Yeah, the cut stump, because if you would put tordon, you risk hurting that tree. You
That
know,
goes in.
that goes into the root system. So it's more of a, you want to do something that's not gonna go through the root system. But that Oriental bittersweet,
Will kill a tree.
oh, easily. Yeah, and we are getting more and more areas of it. Any questions for me?
Yeah, if
Yep.
you guys just wanna make a motion to approve that report that Sherlyn presented, and then she can have,
I'll make that
Paperwork
motion to
back.
approve the
Yeah.
report.
I will second that.
I'm weed commissioner for 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
You
I,
copy that back?
actually, I kept the copy she gave, and I'll just have you sign that, I'll just keep that for our records.
Okay.
So that'll be.
and
fine.
then did you want to give me the copy of the 1, 2? There's another one right there.
This one?
Yes, it's at the end.
Do you wanna sign that one, or do you?
Yes. I'm fine.
And mine is,
And then I'll just
Right here.
keep one for the minute records.
It's fine too.
well, she gotta keep one for her.
I just put the approval stamp on the one in here. It's really good, isn't it?
Hospice.
Well, thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Next up is assembly room / north area calendar, the north meeting room. What my idea is to have, like what we have with our other calendars, is to have it shared, a big shared calendar with, that is accessible to all the department heads and elected officials. This way, if somebody has a vendor coming in, they can look at it, they know, okay, I can meet with the vendor, I can use this meeting room and just sign themselves up without having to go through another party to sign up.
The auditor's office currently has that calendar. The assembly room's always been at the auditor's office. I don't know why, that's just the way it always has been. And then when Rick and
Probably use it more than anybody else.
could very well be. I mean, that's been that way for years. And then when Rick and Chris moved out, they asked me to put the North Conference Room in there. So I do have a calendar. And I'm assuming, because I think I know, but I'm not sure. I'm sure Jason or Juan could help me. All that we would, if this is something you want everyone to have access to, there is a way to share it. So I believe I could get all department heads access to it, right, Jason? Correct. So I think the easiest fix would just be to share this one. Unless you want me just to delete it and recreate the wheel, that's up to you guys.
Either way, people are gonna have access to it.
Right, I mean, just go ahead and have Jason or
If
Juan.
I,
That be through Outlook again, or is that,
yeah,
I don't see why we have to change it. I mean, just make it accessible.
just make it shareable.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could,
And that
I
way
will
you
work
can
on
do it.
that. I'll take a look at it, Jason, and if I can't figure it out, we'll call you. Thank you.
Outside lights around the courthouse. So down by the dumpster, this is coming back, we're circling back on it. Their janitor was saying it's
Really dark.
it's really dark. And I thought, well, what I thought was a light out there, actually the camera.
Hey,
Oh, light.
I think we should have dusk to dawn lights on both of these employee entrances. And that way, you're not depending on a motion, setting it off. They're just on, and that way when I know Sean Arden comes in at odd hours sometimes to work up in the office. And I'm sure he would be appreciative.
Well, the sheriff's department comes over here and uses those dumpsters at off hour, dark hours
Yep.
too.
Exactly.
The northwest entrance, that I call northwest, what's that got on it for light?
It's got 1.5 lights for the outside, just standard switch on all the time.
So they're switched, they gotta be switched to be on, so there's nothing that's on all the time during dusk and dawn.
Correct. Majority of the time they're just left on. I say 1.5 because one has an electrical problem and has for years. So it burns the light out about every few months. So we've got about 1.5 lights on the outside there.
I had reached out to one of our electricians, that local electricians that we use about this, to come in and
Look at it.
look at it, give us some kind of report, and before he got that done, had a medical issue, and so that's not been completed. I didn't get anything back with him yet, from that yet, but he said he would do that, but, because of medical reasons, he is not. I told him to put some kind of a figure together with us to review, and just, everything never got done.
My personal feeling is we went with a dusk to dawn LED light on both the entrances that were here. And we could even look at it for the north entrance too, but, it would be not a lot of energy usage. And you wouldn't have to worry about it tripping to get the light to come on. Cause I started thinking about that. I know I've got motion lights at home, and sometimes you have to jump up and down to get the thing to activate. It might be because it's 20 years old.
I think that it'd be beneficial for the security angle of it too.
Yeah, I really do.
So if you wanted, you
While we're,
board wanna wait until he comes back, you're able to back and function, or you could reach out to somebody else.
we can reach out to somebody else. I can have Becker Electric come in. And then while we're talking about the lights outside, the light over the garage door is burnt out again. And Lyle thinks that it's more than just a bulb. He says, is it a solar light that's hardwired or something?
I don't know if that's a low pressure sodium or what kind of light that is. Sometimes they got a power pack in them that activates the light and stuff like that, and I don't know what style that is. But I think anytime anything change is done, is do direct wire LED. That way you eliminate any ballast, any power units or anything like that. It just direct wire and LED, you're done.
And it's low energy use.
Yeah.
So maybe we can look at all, actually, maybe all 4 of them, since Jason says that one on the
Yeah.
northwest side doesn't work very
That
good.
sounds like if there's an electrical problem down there, that needs to be taken care of. Find out why, if there's something shorting out or if there's some kind of surgings or grounding that's not accurate, correct?
Something's going on.
Needs to be corrected.
And I don't see a problem with having the garage light, that overhead light on overnight. That's not a big deal, I don't think.
No, I'm just gonna light it up.
Maybe better security too.
No, we haven't got the greatest lighting in this parking lot.
So you're looking at all 3 employee entrances and then the garage.
Garage, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Garage.
And the chair is gonna take care of those electrician to go to. Correct.
Got it.
Okay.
Are they supplying the lights too?
Should.
All right, discuss the sale of public health vehicle.
I believe I forwarded that email to you guys from Griffin. And I guess you just need to make a decision if you want to proceed right away or what you would like to do with it. Also, to throw this out there, I have that smaller trailer that I use for election equipment that I will no longer be utilizing. So this spring, I would like to sell that also. That's just a little FYI. But it's up to you how soon you wanna proceed on the car or what you want to do with the car.
Well, if we're doing the advertising, best put everything in one ad, right?
Yeah. Do you have any idea what the value of that trailer is? What you guys paid for it?
Absolutely no clue. I could find out what we paid for it. I mean, I think they've had it for about 20 years or so.
Is that a single or double axle, do you know?
Single.
It's like a 8x10 or.
Yeah, it's an enclosed trailer.
Does anybody, the county have a use for it? Any of the departments?
I could find it. I could reach out and see.
I can't imagine, but.
Yeah, I would have to look. I have the title. I would have to look at the title to get all the details.
No, Dunlaps, did they just place a value on that, or is that what they're offering for the vehicle?
I don't know. What did
that was
that, what
just
did
a
the
value.
email say?
I think
It was just a value. Dunlap bid 2010 Ford Fusion SE, then give the bin number $4,000.
Bid, says bid, so we bid on it.
I would be.
This is Griffin. I don't think he meant to bid. That was just what it was worth.
Thank you, Griffin.
So. Do we wanna wait until put both of them up at the same time, do still bid?
If you could get us a possible value for that trailer,
Mm-hmm.
we'd include them both and advertise them
And let's do a sealed bid in here and let people up each other like we did with one more.
yeah.
Your other
I mean, that car would be a.
again,
We
too.
wouldn't do a big iron for those pieces of equipment. I mean, big iron if it was construction equipment, yes, but. A little car. No.
I truly think that little, there will be a lot of interest in that car.
I do too. It's a low
Oh,
mileage.
Lower mileage.
It's in
Decent shape.
decent shape and
Mhm.
make a great work car or school car or whatever. it would be,
Yeah, I agree.
You know. And those are hard to find. And it's been well maintained, so.
Mhm. All right, I'll gather information on that trailer and, then I'll bring it back to the board for possible setting dates.
You bet. That sounds
Sounds
great.
Purchase of lawnmowers for secondary roads.
It's not a lawnmower, it's a ditch mower. And so what we're looking for is the replacement for one of our Vermeer mowers. I did take a picture of it, but where it's being stored, it's pretty dark, but we bought it about 2001, so we've got a mower out there that's about 24 years old. And a replacement for it is about $15,250. And that's another Vermeer. One of the blade operators said he heard that John Deere makes a good one, so we looked into that. And the John Deere was more expensive, is what I was told, but also the John Deere mower, the oil oil runs the full length of the bar rather than separate components. So if you're in your ditch all day down like this, the upper end bearings never get oil. Yeah, it looks exactly like the old Kuhn mowers that we started out in '93 with. So I suspect Kuhn's making John Deere's mowers.
So you're saying that Vermeer is the only one that can meet your specifications?
Vermeer is really the only one out there that we're aware of.
Well, that's kind of their specialty too, is that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We've had good luck with them. They're easier to work on. Now, all right, so this is $15,250. If I was to try and buy the parts and rebuild it, we tend to do that a time or two, but the parts are about $9,000 also. So if you're spending $9,000 for parts and $15,000 for a new one, at some point in time,
You still got the drivetrain gearbox that's not getting replaced.
nope, yeah, and you got metal fatigue that comes into play.
So the old mower, what's the disposition on that?
We would probably put it on a big iron auction. We'd let it sit here for a while and put it on a big iron auction. Now, some of my other mowers that we use on the pavements, the guys are wanting to keep them around for parts because a gearbox on those is high dollar.
Sure.
Your box, just a hazel cost $3,000.
Yeah.
Does Veneer do any governmental discount?
Yes, and that was including the governmental discount. They listed a total sale price of $17,460, but after the cash back is the term they used, it was $15,250.
Somehow I'm sure that you're gonna have to make sure that, because of your specifications, that, John Deere doesn't meet the specs and stuff. So you got justification why you didn't.
Yeah, there's,
Another company.
yep, there, and we haven't bought a, never have bought a John Deere mower, but what I was told is they're more expensive and don't work in our environment as well.
Well, Vermeer still made an eye out too.
Yes, yep. And when we looked at this, I would bet this is a Coons making John Deere's mowers.
Are you looking at this year's budget or?
This year's budget, and I have plenty of money in this year's budget, and I have no other new equipment coming out of this year's budget.
Motion on this, or just have Brian proceed? I'd make the motion, we have Brian proceed with the purchase of a new mower.
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Public
How's your salt holding up? Are you okay?
We have a bunch that's supposed to be coming in today, and we used a lot of it, and I had complaints that we had too much salt on Pints Edition. It was tracking into their garage.
Yeah.
It's one of those no-win situations.
That's right.
And then on the other,
Got that fresh blacktop out there, so it's
yeah, then,
really slippery if you didn't put it down.
and I had 2 phone calls this morning, and Phil had already had trucks out, but we had one on W13 being slick. And then just before I was coming up here, there was a gentleman stopped in the office. And if I get north of 160th Street on Slater Avenue, that's real slick. So it's interesting. You look outside, and when I checked the weather a little while ago, it's still 31 degrees in this fog. And as the pavements cool down more, that's sticking, it's freezing to them, turning to ice. But I was supposed to get about 3 loads today of salt.
Now, DOT has temperatures out there in their roads. What's the nearest one? Do we got some sure located near Buchanan County that you can look at them?
Yes, and the guys do that. Yes, and the guys do that. So they'll go on the DOT's website, 511, and look at road temperatures. But again, they change from hour to hour.
The comment?
And the one that thought she was gonna show up didn't show up, so.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
All right.
So everybody's aware, I'm gonna get a hold of the custodians,